Hello and welcome to the Razer Think Fast season number 2 here on HeflaTV 1. This is going to be a series of Bo1s, the first one being Hehe United versus Basically Unknown. I'm Grandis V. I should be joined by Mike Loris, but unfortunately for the time being I have no idea where he is, so hopefully we'll be able to get him here shortly. But either way, we're going to go ahead and start off this game. At the moment, Basically Unknown are rolling with their full 5-man squad, and for Hehe, they're mostly there. With the exception being Cube has, for some reason, named his official self Super Dick, but we're going to ignore that. Blitz Dota standing in for them, and now I have Mike Loris on the line, so we'll go ahead and get into this draft.
Right, it should be a pretty good one. I would say Basically Unknown, out of this group, probably the favorites to advance, just looking at all the names. And of course, it's a little bit cheating because they've already played some games, but Hehe only played one game in this group. I don't know how that actually worked out, but they have yet to really, get going. Whereas Basically Unknown, they're sitting at 2-0. So it's definitely BU feeling a little bit more comfortable about their standings right now.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. At the moment, Basically Unknown are pretty comfy, and they'd love to secure it even further. At the moment, the draft is progressing pretty glacially slowly. We're going to see a Lena banned out by Hehe, following the Troll and Io from Basically Unknown, but really nothing too noteworthy. Actually, a Tree and Protector banned by Basically Unknown. That's interesting.
Yeah, you don't really see that every day. Zeus, not exactly the best at taking out that tree armor, though he's not too terrible. It's, I guess, just a respect ban. Hehe, they do run, on occasion, some pretty weird stuff, and I believe in the last set I casted of them. I don't actually remember who that was up against, but they did run Treant in 2 out of the 3 games, I want to say, if not all 3. So, yeah, if they're comfortable with the hero, it's worthwhile as a ban. But of course, this is going to leave, you-know-who, the sniper, in the pool. So, Tree, Sniper, I would say Sniper probably a little bit more scary and probably a little bit more difficult to handle. But hey, that's, I guess, up to Basically Unknown, as Spirit Breaker is going to be the pick for Hehe first, already setting themselves up for potentially anti-sniper if it were to come to that.
Yeah, and at the moment, Basically Unknown's heroes aren't very well equipped at dealing with it, but also Hehe might just not be interested in playing that hero. At the moment, there's still plenty left in the pool for them, and it's a Darkseer next. Already a pretty peculiar draft. Spirit Breaker is a very good carrier of that Ion Shell, just being able to charge at people and run them down with the Darkseer extra movement speed. It's actually a pretty cool combo, as that hasted movement speed makes your bashes hit very, very hard. But either way, I think they probably could have left this Darkseer till later on. My hope for this game, although we're never going to see it, is Aghanim Scepter Spirit Breaker plus Vacuum.
Dude, whatever you say, my hope for this game, I'm always like, oh my god, what is he going to say this time? And yeah, that would be pretty freaking sweet. I don't know if I've ever seen a Spirit Breaker buy an Aghanim Scepter ever. Like, ever, but hey, you never know, man. You never know. Spirit Breaker Darkseer, I want to say that it's just He's dual off lane. Like, they're just going to play this super, super aggro. Charge all the time with the Ion Shells up, and if anyone soft is in there, such as a support Zeus from Basically Unknown, then they're going to be in for a really rough time if they don't have an easy way of canceling this charge. And that's really the problem, as you said, with picking up this Darkseer very early. It does indicate that Hehe are planning some sort of, I think we could call this shenanigans, right? Some lane shenanigans that will most likely be brick-walled should Basically Unknown pick up someone like a Lion who will be able to interrupt the charge every single time.
Yeah, for sure, and even without having the Lion, they already have Zeus, which is pretty good at canceling Spirit Breaker's charge with the Bolt if he's coming for the Zeus, and also just keeping tabs on the Spirit Breaker with the global glimpse of vision that you get with Thunder God's Wrath. So, at the moment, Basically Unknown have more than enough time to somewhat deal with Hehe's picks. At the moment, I think Lion would be pretty high up there. If not Lion, just anything with an instant disable, like a Rubik, or anything with a long disable, like a Earthshaker, or something along those lines. Either way, Hehe are going to be considering this next ban. It's going to be a Phantom Assassin taken out and Queen of Pain banned out by Basically Unknown.
And Hehe, they should be aware of the fact that Basically Unknown are going to want to grab CC. Hex, not the best versus Darkseer, because you just surge the Hex target, and they're going to be booking it out of there. But yeah, some disable is definitely threatening. I would say it's probably justifiable that Hehe are more scared about this ramp Magnus strategy with the Juggernaut and the Phantom Assassin banned out. Basically Unknown will have to go for probably not their first pick, or not their first selection as far as who they want to be the recipient of this Empower and of this farm ramp. It could just be a Medusa. You just go for that range hero who probably benefits from the Ranger who probably benefits from Empower the most because of the split shot, but there's always Slark, there's always Bristleback. You could probably find a melee hero to empower pretty much no matter what. But for basically unknown, it's going to be a Shadow Demon, and this is the response to the Darkseer and the Spirit Breaker. If you have your target charged with the Ion Shell, just put him in the bubble and you have a lot of time to save him.
For sure, it's going to be a nice defensive support for basically unknown to counteract those ganks, and also they have plenty of time inside their draft to pick up somebody that benefits very heavily from the aggressive potential of the Shadow Demon Disruption. It's going to be an Earthshaker pick for Hehe, at the moment very melee heavy. They're going to go ahead and snag up the Mirana next. It's a combination that has fallen out of favor, but is still pretty darn good. If you can get that Disruption to Arrow combo, it's pretty god tier when it comes to stuns, Arrow, if you can get the long range one off.
And for Hehe, there's really no way that they're going to be able to comfortably deal with that. I guess the Shaker can, in some ways, deal with that combo. If you just know where the Mirana arrow is coming from, you could throw the Fissure, slow her down, and try to save your ally that way. But as you said, Hehe, they already have a very melee-heavy draft. So for basically unknown, if you're the Mirana player, you just chuck an arrow into the crowd, odds are you're probably going to hit someone who's going to be struggling to move out of the way. So this is, not the best heroes to actually punish a super melee heavy draft. Like Shaker, Sand King would be on the top of my list for those. Lena as well, but she's banned out. It's still basically known with a Magnus, with a Zeus. These are heroes that can destroy a melee heavy lineup. So for Hehe, they definitely need some ranged control. At the very least, I would hope they grab a ranged hero for the mid lane. Or just more melee heroes, because you know what? Sometimes you just got to get right in their face and beat their faces in.
We'll have to see if they're able to accomplish that. It's a Phantom Lancer for Hehe. Definitely not the hero that would immediately come to mind. At the moment, he's going to struggle pretty heavily to Zeus's Burst, and although Shadow Demon into Mirana Arrow is a reliable lockdown for Phantom Lancer, I'm not sure if that's really going to phase basically unknown that much. All that said, Phantom Lancer is still a good hero in his own right, and I can see him functioning well, but maybe this isn't the draft for it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the lanes from Hehe, first of all, Darkseer, Spirit Breaker, they can kind of get away with rather suboptimal lanes because of their burst aggression, especially if you put them together. So that lane is probably going to be okay. If you have a Shaker and Phantom Lancer, a safe lane duo lane or something like that, like that is not very hard for basically unknown to actually punish. They don't really have the best hero to send up there right now, but even Mag offlane versus those two melee heroes doesn't really have that much to fear, especially if he gets some levels. Once he's level 3, he should be just fine to just stick in the lane and they won't be able to shove him out. So for Hehe, they've pretty much drafted themselves into weak lanes. And that's something that they're just going to have to accept. And basically unknown, it's going to be up to them to actually punish these melee-heavy, rather weak laners from Hehe.
If they don't punish them, Hehe can stumble very heavily in the mid game. Basically, Unknown's Empower carry is going to be Dusa. Pretty standard stuff all around. The Faceless Void was banned out against them, Hehe running very low on their reserve time. We'll have to see how Hehe are going to go ahead and round out their draft. At the moment, there's no straightforward pick at the moment. I think basically Unknown kind of flagged that they wanted Dusa, however, with the Nyx Assassin ban.
Yeah, I think that was part one. Also, the fact that Medusa is fantastic up against melee heroes. They need to be right in Medusa's face, and then you just pop your ultimate, and then they have to disengage. Pretty clean combos there. Not to mention the snake effectiveness. Like, in the early stages, can't forget about that. If there are heroes sticking around, if the snake does bounce, man, that thing hurts. So, basically, no, they get the hero that they probably would have wanted the most, and Hehe grab a Wind Ranger. Hey, you know what? It's ranged, and I think at the bare minimum, that should be that. For their mid lane, it is probably going to go up against a Zeus, and that should also be a fairly even lane there.
Yeah, at the moment, I think his biggest tool that they have against Dusa is the fact that Phantom Lancer should be building into a Diffusal Blade, and that can put a lot of damage into Nico Baby. We'll have to see if he's going to adjust his build in any significant way, but that said, we'll go ahead and introduce our teams. Medusa is going to be played by Nico Baby. Pure Evil on the Mirana. Arise is going to be handling his signature Magnus. Shadow Demon played by, I believe that's Insolent on the SD, and Zeus by Mind Control.
Yes, it is Insolent from last time. I remember mispronouncing that name horribly. They're going to be sending the Kun over as the Spirit Breaker. They have Hawa on the carry Phantom Lancer. Nihias is on his Darkseer with Cube or Super Dick, whichever one you prefer, on the Shaker, and that leaves Blitz standing in as the Wind Ranger. They're going to wander around the enemy woods. When you have this many melee heroes, you're probably not going to lose a brawl this early. They just need sight, and they just lost it, but then they gained it again. Pure Evil needs Leap level 1 so desperately right now because there's a lot of pain incoming. Stun and Ion Shell, that's already a lot. She does leap out, and the Fissure will be held by Cube. So That's pretty much a taste of things to come for the unknown side. But again, Mirana has her defensive tool, as does Insolent, so it will be kind of difficult to actually translate that combo into actual kills.
Yeah, at the moment, all that cost Hehe was the mana for a charge and an Ion Shell. No major losses. They're going to secure bottom rune for their team, it seems. Darkseer is sitting inside the Roshan pit, Spiritbreaker is sitting on top of the rune, and it looks like it's going to be a 1-for-1 rune trade. Mirana is going to pick that up in top, and although usually that's not super significant, since Pure Evil was forced to go for Leap level 1, that's going to help a truck ton, as he'll get closer and closer towards getting Arrow online.
Yeah, level 1 Mirana is really just a garbage hero if you grab Leap. You can't do anything except for stick around in lane and try to absorb some experience, and she will have to do that. Luckily for her, she's probably going to go up in a lane where there's just a Phantom Lancer, and Phantom Lancer can't do anything to zone her out, but it will be an offensive tri-lane for Hehe and Basically Unknown both. Poor Mind Control, poor Hoa. They're going to be in for a world of hurt, especially the Zeus. He has Arc Lightning level 1 just to last it, but that doesn't save him against the charge. And similarly for Hoa, he's going to be on the receiving end of many arrows.
Yeah, I think the best that Mind Control can hope for is just soaking experience inside the trees. He as much as shows his face, the Coon and Niz are going to dive him. Phantom Lancer up towards top every once in a while might be able to get a CS with Spirit Lance, but that's by no means sustainable. He's also going to have a very difficult time without support. I'm pretty sure that the Earthshaker will make his way up towards top, but at the time being, Earthshaker wants to look for a Fissure block off in mid.
Well, can Earthshaker even help out this lane? Like, if they had 2 melee heroes running around in a circle, would it be much different from just one? Like, they are going to chuck an arrow. Oh, that was actually a very close miss from Pure Evil, and Hoa probably would have survived anyway, but it's the thought that counts. They're pretty much full offensive tri-laning, trying to keep this Phantom Lancer off the creep wave, and this is pretty much what he decided to pick up. They walked right into this with their draft.
Oh, Cube looking for the Fissure block. He finds it onto a rise, but Askira is going to get him over that ravine, and well, that's one of the big benefits of having Magnus, I suppose. He's pretty hard to gank inside that mid lane, especially by an Earthshaker.
Uh-oh, bottom lane, Mind Control. Zeus needs some sick jukes right about now. Nihis' Ion Shell does wear out, but it does go back up. Here comes Stoneman. He's going to have that bubble available for Mind Control. He gets stuck in a corner, great bash, but then instantly blocked. Pure Evil's there with an arrow. Mind Control will be first blood, but how many kills can he get after this one? Nihis still man-fighting up against the Shadow Demon. Darkseer has 7 armor. You don't want to mess with that. Kun going to get surged out. He's going to die, though, and now Stoneman trying to go for his sick jukes of his own, but here comes Mind Control again. He'll turn things around and get 2 kills for the team. That was a buyback from the Zeus. But buyback so early, it's not actually that expensive. So I think for Zeus, it was maybe not worth it to do it because they probably would have gotten both anyway. But making it a simple 2-for-1 and that first blood for Hehe, not exactly as clean as it really should have been.
Even after buying back, it's a net gain of 100 gold for the Zeus, so that's probably worth. Nico Baby up towards top, gonna get charged. HWA does have Spirit Lance, but Deuce is pretty darn tanky. Even with just 1 point into the Magic Shield, she'll be able to survive without any support.
And the supports will probably free themselves up to roam around as much as they can. Exception being Shadow Demon, who will need to go back to the base for right now. They're just going to leave Nico Baby under the gun up towards top. There is a narrow... What? How did you get through there? I have no idea how that actually worked. It doesn't look like you could pass through, but I guess Medusa's a snake. She could fit into very tight places. That block would have definitely killed off Nico Baby.
Yeah, very awkward spot. But yeah, as far as I can tell, Medusa's hero model is actually pretty small, so who knows. Either way, we'll just go back to the lanes and pretend that didn't happen. Medusa's going to be able to wiggle her way back towards the well and get some regen there. I'm not sure if basically Unknown are going to settle down in these lanes. We have a Shadow Demon Mirana inside mid, looking potentially for a kill onto Blitz. Can they make this happen? Pure Evil as well as Insolent, they're going to look for the disruption. They'll find it pretty easily too. The arrow follow-up is going to be on the point with a skewer back under the tower. Blitz is not taking very many hits, but is still going to be more than enough damage as Shadow Demon secures that kill, or rather, Wind Ranger dies to the tower.
And that was such a close kill there for Basically Unknown. There was a melee creep that was hitting the catapult from the low ground. If the melee creep was a little bit more to the bottom left, then he would have seen that coming and he would have been just fine. But because the melee creep just didn't have enough range, or vision rather, to actually see up the high ground, that was the kill, because Shadow Demon was actually allowed to walk on in, and well, we saw the power of the arrow there. Wind Ranger, with her level 1 wind run, will survive tower shots for a little while, but not forever. Now down towards bottom lane, there's going to be a bubble, canceling out the surge. Arrow is there with a double damage Mirana. This is definitely going to be a kill. The question is, who's going to grab it? It looks like it's going to be Mirana, although Nico Baby tried to snag it. Here comes the charge from the Spirit Breaker. He can't do that much with it. It'll be a very easy setup on the bottom lane for Basically Unknown.
In the end, Basically Unknown are going to come away with 4-1 in this laning stage. I'm not sure it's super unexpected for them to be doing well, but Hehe really would have liked to got more out of their Spirit Breaker and Darkseer combination. 0-1 and 1 on the Spirit Breaker and 1 and 2 on the Darkseer. Definitely sub where they'd like to be. They're going to partner up again. The power of double Ion Shell is pretty significant at this point in the game, but Basically Unknown, for the most part, are doing reasonably well in all of their lanes, although Hehe are running with a slight CS advantage.
Yeah, and that CS advantage is going to help them counteract this fact that there are 3 kills down, but Unknown, they're not going to let this 3-kill disadvantage sit at 3 kills. They're still on the hunt with Stoneman as well as Pure Evil, and this time they're looking for Blitz once again. If they catch another disruption on Blitz, that will definitely be a kill, but it's definitely a lot more difficult now, just because well, Blitz knows that something's up. Although Stoneman might get the angle anyway, smoke is popped, but there's still no vision just yet. There's the disruption will land. Arrow will follow up, however, there is a TP incoming, and that Shaker's arrival will keep the Wind Ranger safe. But if you could just spend those points of mana to force out a TP, that's worth it. Down towards bottom lane, though, Nico Baby is being dove deep, does cut his way through the trees. The jukes, are they real? Well, he's kind of just pacing back and forth, and now the Coon realizes, hey, I could just hit this person, especially with the surge. That's going to hurt if he gets a bash. Or he doesn't even need to hit him. Arrow coming in, will barely whiff. Nico Baby gets a bottle delivered halfway through, though. He's going to chug that entire thing. Fissure is there. Can he slip through this one? Has a tango, will slither his way around. Now Pure Evil's taking the shots. Nias does come in. Ion Shell, it's a very weak Ion Shell, it seems, because Nico Baby is just bottling right through it. Nias is going to get cursed up. Pure Evil Rise coming in from the right, and Nias should be a casualty here. Surge, right clicks. Well, disruption. That's going to prevent the surge from actually working, and then the Darkseer will die. It requires Unknown to rotate literally their entire team, but they don't lose anyone, and they get a kill.
Yeah, the big winners there are probably the Wind Ranger and the Phantom Lancer. They were able to get up some farm over in the sidelines. They catch an arrow onto poor Earthshaker. He's going to be brought down very quickly. Arc Lightning for Mind Control going to secure it.
That was just a random free-handed arrow there from Pure Evil, and Shaker probably should have seen that one coming, but it is nighttime, so reduced vision makes it a little bit more difficult to actually dodge those arrows. Still, Hehe are working with quite a nice CS advantage, but man, they're giving up quite a few kills, and Magnus is very close to his Blink Dagger because of it.
Yeah, and in the end, this is going to benefit Basically Unknown a little bit, although their supporting duo isn't getting that much experience. Everybody else on their team is. All of them have hit that magic level 6 mark, with the exception being Dusa, but honestly that doesn't matter much. Phantom Lancer is getting a lot of free space top, and that might be problematic for Basically Unknown, as if this Phantom Lancer does get a Diffusal Blade, I can see him doing a lot inside these team fights.
Yeah, it seems like he's going to go for, well, I was just about to say he was going to go for Midas first, but that's probably not correct because he has a bottle flying out to him right now. It's not a bad item on Phantom Lancer if you're under any sort of pressure, but when you're 1v0, when you're like 3v0, you actually need to spend this gold. I feel like this might be a little bit too cautious from the Phantom Lancer, who's getting absolute complete free farm. You don't really need that extra regen.
Yeah, at the very early portion of the game he was pressured a bit, but at the moment he has been left alone. Zeus down towards bottom, if they catch vision of him could be in some trouble, but really as much as Hehe have been trying to make this Darkseer and Spirit Breaker combination work, the dives haven't been going in their favor. Even though these heroes are very tanky, it just doesn't seem that they're doing quite enough damage. Shadow Demon potentially going to bump into them as Insolent's going to casually walk behind. He's going to get the disruption, gets bashed up by the Spirit Breaker. Arrow flies through, going to land into his as they charge forward for the Zeus. RP catches both, and the Coon as well as the Darkseer are both going to go down. A 1-for-2 trade that's going to favor Basically Unknown. The Darkseer, while seemingly not phasing Basically Unknown at all.
It's only level 1 wall. It's not exactly the greatest skill in the world, and when you drop it on just a Shadow Demon, he really is okay with dying because he has freaking 7 assists, 8 minutes in the game, so he's still getting quite a bit of gold and quite a bit of experience from the plays that he's making. Yeah, I mean, for Hehe, they're just now just walking into a brick wall. At this point, they really have to change their game plan. As powerful as it is to have a Spirit Breaker with the Ion Shell just charge in, they have to know that at this point, Basically Unknown are packing TP scrolls 24/7, and that they can't easily go for these slow Ion Shell dives. Now over in the mid lane, there's going to be another arrow setup onto Blitz. Wind Run not up. Snake not quite can get the kill, but the Thunder God's Wrath will. Mind Control from the bottom lane, sitting comfortably, will snag that kill.
Yeah, at the moment, basically unknown. Their combination of the Shedid and Rana is just working so much better than Hehe's aggressive duo, and it's been setting up a lot of kills for basically unknown 8. This combo has been involved in, and they're still getting decent amounts of farm, although a lot less on Nico Baby than they'd like to. Zeus, in the meantime, kills off the Phantom Lancer. With a little help from Arise, they're going to be able to set that up.
I think, yeah, you got that the wrong way around, man. Arise pretty much got the solo kill there on Phantom Lancer, and then Zeus stole it because it's Zeus, and that's what Zeus's do. I don't know how a level 8 mag solo kills a level 8 Phantom Lancer without using RP. That really just should not be happening, but this is Arise we're talking about on mag, so it's probably understandable that he just, like, pulled some Magnus magic and did something that no one else could do because he's good at this hero.
I suppose so, since they didn't have to use RP for that kill. It's going to be up in 10 seconds, and he does have a Blink Dagger up at a very nice timing. Over in the sidelines, Darkseer and Spirit Breaker are grouped up on the high ground. They might be bumping into a pretty big force of basically unknown. Arise does have his RP.
There's the Radiant Observer Ward there, so basically unknown know more or less that there are heroes here. They don't really want to blink straight up this little staircase just because they don't exactly know if they're going to catch anyone with the RP, but they're going to use the RP instead for Blitz, skewering him right back into an arrow, and that'll be a very easy kill.
11-2 the kill score is basically unknown are starting to run away with this game, in all honesty. Their Duso has plenty of time to come back into it, and even though the Zeus doesn't have any major items outside of the Midas, he's getting a lot of levels, and the damage output he has at this point in the game is pretty immense. Down towards bottom, the Darkseer and Spirit Breaker are going to continue just partnering up and buddying up. Level 8 now on the Darkseer. Their combo is starting to hit its soft peak at the moment, now that Spirit Breaker does have his level 6.
It'll always be a relevant duo of heroes because Darkseer is still getting quite a bit of farm, actually. I can only imagine that a good portion of that was jungle creeps, but up towards top, I was going to be under the gun again. Blink Skewer into lightning damage. I don't even think Pure Evil did any damage there. Yeah, she didn't. So, yeah, unknown. Just with Arise and Mind Control are going to get yet another kill on the Phantom Lancer. And he has been the one free farming this entire game. And what he has to show for it is a Blade of Alacrity and a Diffusal Blade recipe, which isn't really going to be doing that much. Unknown, they're getting so many kills right now, and even though they're falling a little bit behind in CS, they're getting way far ahead because of these kills, and Hehe, they haven't really had any kills in response.
It might get to a point where basically unknown get a little too comfortable since they are getting all of these pickoffs, and their net worth advantage isn't very significant. Experience, although it is definitely in their favor, is not unsurmountable. But at the moment, basically unknown are feeling pretty happy about themselves. The Magnus is doing a truckload of work for them, as is pretty much everybody on their team. Your pipe is now completed for the Darkseer, and that's certainly going to help Hehe. But even with that pipe, basically unknown have more than enough damage to eat through it, although the extra 400 EHP definitely does help.
The concern for right now for basically unknown should be, wait, these guys are actually getting a lot of farm on the other end just because of raw CS. Like, Mihias has a very, very early pipe. I guess that's enabled because he doesn't have boots, so I guess you just choose which one you want to buy there, but no one else on Hehe, they really have that much gold and actually anything to show for it, but they're going to go for the Spirit Breaker down towards bottom. He's going to try to Nether Strike Stoneman, but a Skewer back will keep the Shadow Demon safe, and it'll be yet another kill. Mind Control is going to grab that one. He's 6-1-3, level 11 on the hero, and Hehe, they're just bleeding out heroes, yet they're trying to keep up with CS, and to a certain extent, it's working, but at a certain point, this will also stop working.
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure what the tipping point is. I think it depends on when Dusa gets her first major item. At the moment, she has Phasic Heal and Bottle, which is fine, but she's not able to really contribute inside these fights, with the exception being just throwing out a Mystic Snake, which is pretty good, but not that great. Once she gets more levels into the split shot, however, they can very easily pump farm into this Dusa just by stacking up Ancients and general neutral creeps.
And there's not a huge Ancient stack right now, but the Empower is still being built up on the Magnus, and Nico Baby really doesn't have that much damage to speak of at the moment, especially with only 1 point split shot. So eventually, that massive gold infusion from eventually those Ancients is going to come through. Well, we got double point booster right now. It's going to be a Scotty Rush for Nico Baby, as well as what I assume to be an Aghanim Scepter Rush for Mind Control. The Hand of Midas has been working overtime. The fact that he has 6-1-3 as his kill score definitely helping out there as well, but now unknown, they're actually going to transition all these kills into some items, because really the only item that they've got that has actually impacted these kills is Arise's Blink Dagger.
Yeah, and to be fair, they're fighting well without having any of those items, but it is going to start paying off. Spirit Breaker inside the top river spot is going to bump into Arise, but I don't think better of going for that one. at the moment, basically unknown, have slowed down a bit when it comes to getting kills. They're now farming up pretty comfortably.
Right, that's what they need to do. They've gotten all these kills already. They've slowed down Hehe a little bit, but they actually need to accelerate the Medusa. Up towards top lane, though, they're going to go for a kill on the Phantom Lancer again. Very easy blink, skewer, bolt, or I guess Pure Evil got a point-blank arrow for this kill steal there. But Phantom Lancer dying yet again. Every single time Arise arrives into this lane, he's going to use the RP, he's going to use the skewer, and Phantom Lancer doesn't really have a great tool to get out of there. Still, he hasn't gotten anything since the last time we checked, and that's really not a good place for a Phantom Lancer to be.
The Coon is going to charge forward for Pure Evil, but decides better of it. At the moment, basically Unknown are really slowing down the Phantom Lancer by quite a bit. Even though their Deuce is still behind his farm, it really doesn't feel like Hehe are effectively defending the PL, and I thought that they might be able to do so a little bit better with the Earthshaker. It just doesn't seem that the ES has been in the right spot at the right time whenever these ganks happen.
And also the aggression hasn't really been at the right place at the right time. Like, they've been going aggressive at the same time, basically Unknown have been passively farming so that they could play defensively. They're not making the aggressive plays, Hehe, at the same time, basically Unknown. That's really the timing that they should be looking for. It is very, very difficult to actually get that timing, granted. But if you go for that aggressive play, like we've seen time and time again from the Darkseer and Spiritbreaker, and Unknown, they're passively farming, they will just all TP in, and then they'll turn that fight around on you. So for Hehe, they're just potentially not getting their aggression off at the right times. That's really what's causing them trouble.
At the moment, Phantom Lancer does now have his Diffusal Blade completed, so maybe now with that tool, Hehe can start making things happen around the map. They also have the makings of an Aghanim Scepter up on Blitz, so we'll just have to see if they're able to put things together and get the right momentum. There's a surge forward in mid. His is going to start scouting. His Focus Fire takes out this tier 1 tower down to about 200 HP. They won't be able to finish that off, but on the same token, basically Unknown won't be able to deny it. They're coming in force, and they're going to find themselves in his. He's caught out in a really awkward spot, but so is Pure Evil inside the wall. He's going to be nether struck up, but with the ultimate coming out from Nico Baby, they're going to freeze up the Coon. Mystic Snake's going to drop both of them pretty low as the Ion Shell's burning down Nico Baby's mana pool. They'll bring in the Phantom Lancer, they'll bring in the Wind Ranger, but don't find an angle for initiation as Arise is sitting over in the sidelines. He has an RP going to drop it solo into HWA. He's going to pull them back in the rest of the team as he gets blown sky high. Charged forward by the Coon. He's going to get disrupted up, however. Now the curse applied. They're attempting a shackle onto Nico Baby, but Nico Baby is going to be just fine. The Coon runs out of there alive. Fisher trying to disengage, but it looks like Cube is going to end up taking a lot of damage. It does go down to the Deuce as she secures that after they drop a shockwave into him. It's a big win for basically Unknown. He needed that fight to go in their favor, and all they got, if I recall, is the Mirana kill.
And that's a Mirana kill, a pure support Mirana, who already has Arcane Boots, by the way, who doesn't actually need anything else. Maybe you get a Diffusal Blade for random utility. You can get rid of Surge that way, and that's kind of nice. But yeah, this Mirana really doesn't need anything else except for a Magic Stick. Everyone else on Unknown cashing in. There was something like a 1400 gold swing there. Of course, Unknown gaining a lot of experience there as well. And that was even with Hehe taking a fight where they had, for a short period, a massive numbers advantage. There was something good and bad going with the position that they took that fight. First of all, the wall there with the fissure made it very difficult for Unknown to actually disengage. But also for Hehe, they were forced to like run through this narrow tree corridor that's you can't see me drawing. You can see it on the minimap, I think. But you know what tree corridor I'm talking about. They had to run through there if they wanted to continue the chase. And in running through that, they knew that they would be susceptible to Magnus's everything. So they had to fall back from there. They couldn't chase forward because they couldn't get through that narrow little passage through the trees. So yeah, they got the kill on the Mirana, but that's only because she got stuck in that wall. They couldn't chase forward for anything else, and it's going to be a 1-for-3 total, I think.
Yeah, and that's the Phantom Lancer's first fight with his Diffusal Blade. Oh no, he didn't even have it yet. That was a really interesting fight for him to join then. All he was offering was the Spirit Lance, and although a pretty good spell, it didn't really feel like he did much of anything.
Spirit Lance is a mediocre nuke. It's nice to have the slow, I suppose, but when Unknown working with so many defensive tools, when you're gonna have to fight into a Stone Gaze, then that Phantom Lancer's contribution isn't really going to be that high. So right now, I don't actually know what we're waiting for. Maybe Mirana's disconnected, maybe Franker's paused, but either way, there's a lot of cash now and basically Unknown, with Magnus completing up his 4 staffs, so as if the RPs and skewers haven't been good enough, they will now be even better. The Medusa has 2,000 gold out of her first ultimate orb, not the highest amount of farm on her, But hey, it's Medusa with eventually Empower, now level 2. She'll accelerate her farm soon enough, and Zeus is very quickly closing on his Aghanim Scepter. Whereas for Hehe, well, they have a Diffusal Blade and they have a Darkseer with some farm, but that's about it.
At the moment, even though it might look like basically Unknown are absolutely crushing with a 17-3 score, if they start losing fights, that's where Hehe can really start pulling ahead. As even with this vast kill score advantage, they're really not that far ahead when it comes to the raw items, mostly because Nico Baby is a little underfarmed on the Dusa. So it's by no means a lost game for Hehe, they just need to tighten up the screws a bit and not take these scattered engagements. Honestly, I think they needed to wait for the Aghanim Scepter on the Wind Ranger and Diffusal Blade in the PL before really starting to fight.
Or a Blink Dagger on the Earthshaker or something like that. Like, some huge leap in power. Like, the Darkseer's pipe there, I believe was only used on himself because he, well, was in trouble and he had to use it eventually or just die. So the pipe didn't exactly have a huge amount of value for this Darkseer. Maybe that fight would have been a lot different if he had 3 heroes with that pipe buff, but that's not always going to be the case for a Darkseer. He's going to return to the lane and look to complete up probably the mech for the team, which is going to be all well and good, but only if the Darkseer is actually able to be with the team by the time the team fight starts.
Well, at the moment, that's pretty much all of the momentum in Unknown's court. Let's see if they're going to be able to carry through with this. Mirana has since respawned. Everybody's back online in this map, but it's unlikely that they're going to fight until they have RP back up again for Rise. So that's about a minute where they're probably just going to passively farm and push out the lanes to the best of their ability. Zeus Ultimate, going to be used purely for scouting purposes, is going to catch a glimpse of the entire Hehe lineup, but it doesn't look like they're going to get any kills with it. Shadow Demon's getting charged up by the Spirit Breaker. This would have been spotted out by a Radiant Ward if he kept on going, but in the end decides against it and stops the charge.
Probably even would have been stopped by Mind Control's Bolt if they saw it at all. He was probably in range to stop that, but even if he wasn't, Shadow Demon would have walked away. They get the Diffusal Blade on the Phantom Lancer. That's great and everything. Now he can actually join fights, but he really doesn't want to. He shouldn't want to join these fights. As good as Diffusal Blade is versus a Medusa versus everyone, it's such a great item on Phantom Lancer. I don't think this is actually the best build that Hoa could have gone for. When you're this far behind, when you're dying all the time as Phantom Lancer, probably a little bit of lifesteal like a Vlad's would have been a little bit better just so he could sustain himself through the jungle and even open up the door for Roshan for Hehe, because with this Diffusal Blade, they can't easily kill off Roshan.
Well, and at the moment, I'm not sure if it's going to end up mattering that much. He has it, and that's the bottom line. Hehe do have that tool to start taking fights, and they'll want to soon. Vacuum by the Darkseer, used mostly just to destroy trees. It is just a Shadow Demon Mirana here. Although Magnus is coming from the sidelines, he's going to bump into a PL, but that's just an illusion, doing literally next to no damage to this Observer Ward.
Oh, Pure Evil just wants to D-ward. Look at the Mirana straining to get in range. Oh, that's so sad. Mirana doesn't really want to leap up there. Arise is going to, though, because he has a Force Staff, or in theory he has a Force Staff, and okay, they will clear out the wards there. That was a little bit awkward, but they're also going to catch Nihis, or will Nihis get caught? He's going to turn around, force Arise out. He blinked in, thought about skewering, thought about RPing, decided on neither. And now with the Dire Sentry on the floor, Nihis will spot out Pure Evil, he'll spot out Arise, and he will spot out the fact that there's Moonlight Shadow. With an Observer Ward placed now, Pure Evil knows exactly where everyone in Hehe is. Arrow is probably going to hit someone. Oh, okay, never mind, it doesn't hit anyone. But still, the rest of Basically Unknown, they're right behind Pure Evil, and they can get a massive team fight because they do have a mag with pretty much infinite mobility and an RP ready.
They are down their Zeus Ultimate. It was spent while they were looking for that Darkseer, so in the end, it looks like they're just going to get a tier 1 tower without much of a scuffle. There's a charge in mid, going for Nico Baby. They'll bring the Earthshaker. He has a Fissure, can keep finding an angle. He's going to drop it. Medusa is able to get her ultimate off, and the Fissure's going to block off the Spirit Breaker more than anything. There's 4 heroes. Medusa is going to turn and fight this. There is a wall. The wall is going to make a Medusa replicate. The RP is going to be pump fake by Rise. He'll drop Shockwave into Nihiz as he gets shackled up to poor Shadow Demon. In the end, the Magnus is going to go down. Medusa's over in the sidelines, and it looks like they want to pull out. The Coon's going to drop low to this Demonic Purge, but does end up surviving. It's Basically Unknown, lose their mag, but not much else.
That was the ideal shackle there from Hehe. It actually could not get any better. You get rid of the main enemy team fighter in the Magnus, and you also shackle him to the person that would have saved the Magnus if he got shackled to anything else. Because if the Magnus gets shackled, yeah, that's pretty bad, but you just put him in the disruption, and then you just wait a little bit, and then you're going to be fine to either retreat or continue the fight, but obviously not an option. Wind Ranger dishing the damage there with the fresh Aghanim Scepter and her level 2 ultimate, so it's Hehe getting a pretty nice pick off on the mag. And Unknown really just scrambling to defend their Medusa, who is just farming. That's all she wanted to do, but was not allowed to. Pure Evil is going to get chased down by Blitz. He does not have any more win run, but Phase Boot's advantage right now. He should catch up if he really is going to continue on with this chase. Pure Evil needs a sick juke right now. Sometimes the sickest jukes just involve standing still, and it looks like it will work.
Yeah, in the end, Blitz doesn't find the Mirana and is going to pull back. Mirana is in a bit of an awkward corridor at the moment, but she seems to be just fine. Blitz is going to give up pursuit and back off inside mid lane. There's going to be a charge forward. They'll be able to pull back into his with the skewer back and more than enough damage. Even with the pipe, it felt like Darkseer just melted to the damage of Mind Control.
Yeah, that's because you get Soul Catcher. Like, it's maxed out at this point, 50% bonus damage. And Zeus is already doing insane amounts of damage. I believe the amplification applies to both the Zeus's skills as well as the static field damage. So yeah, that hurts. And he has a pipe, mind you. Like, that should not really be happening to a hero with a pipe ever. But yeah, if you can land a Soul Catcher, it still does a lot of damage, guys. We just don't really see Shadow even all that often anymore, and it's usually a pretty low level. But he's level 11 because of his 12 assists right now, and he has a freaking Yule Scepter. So yeah, super defensive hero right now, and hell, when the time comes, he can put some hurt on as well.
Nico Baby has managed to farm himself up to Scotty. It's his first major item. Now that Medusa does have something that will allow her to fight reasonably effectively inside these engagements. I'd like to see an early butterfly for the Medusa this game to somewhat mitigate the fact that Diffusal Blade's going to be a constant pain for her, and in the end maybe the Scotty is going to allow the Phantom Lancer to do a little bit more damage to the Medusa herself. But regardless, she's starting to get farm at the top of the net worth, and followed by two of the members of her team plus Blitz.
It's not a super extraordinary amount of farm for Medusa, but again, it hasn't really been accelerated fully. Arises in power only level 3, and as far as the stacking is concerned, I don't think there's been a ton of that. So Nico Baby can get a lot more farm a lot faster. That snake is going to do a hell of a lot of damage. Oh, that hurts. And they're going to go for this push. They're completely spotted out, however. Dire Observer Ward is going to put Hehe at the vision advantage. However, Hoa, narrowly going to dodge an arrow. He's going to get tagged by Shadow Poison, but Doppelganger's OP, and he will get out of there safe and sound. This is going to be a slow siege from Unknown because they do have Medusa with a Scotty. They're basically just waiting for Arise to find an angle right now. Or they're just going to keep grabbing Phantom Lancer illusions with Disruption and then have a PL versus PL fight.
Yeah, which is actually a pretty cool synergy and a benefit you do get from having the Shadow Demon on your team. It's only level 1 Disruption, so they don't last very long, but they can spread to themselves and do get the diffusal effect. It can be very annoying for the enemy team to deal with.
Oh, Rise, he's going to get charged out. Force Staff is going to keep him safe, though. Now the Coon is trapped. He gets piped, but that's not going to save you against all this physical damage. He'll die. Nico Baby's going to get a fail shackle to the dome. Arrow coming through. Dodge cube. No, don't dodge into the arrow. Dodge the other way. Here comes Mind Control. Bolt 1. Not quite going to do it, but with the Demonic Purge, he'll take out the Surge, and they'll take that kill as well. That was some pretty awkward initiation there, but that was pretty effective from Hehe. They knew that Arise was in this little corner, and Arise didn't know that Hehe knew, so you just charge right in, and effectively you charge the hero, but they just didn't have any follow-up for that, and it's going to be Unknown to walk away with 1 tower and 2 kills richer.
Yeah, nothing but wins for them. At the moment, it really just doesn't feel like he have been able to find anything clean. In theory, as you said, it was a good idea to go on the mag and taking away that threat of the Blink RP initiation, and in the end, it might have gone better for Hehe, all things considered, if they had just left Arise alone to get off an RP skewer back in to the rest of the team, but regardless, basically Unknown, they get a victory by every metric. They get 2 kills, they get a tower, and nobody on the side of Hehe is farming in the meantime. They did commit their entire team there.
The wall was also used, and it's only level 1 despite being level 12 Darkseer, but with that ultimate down the tubes, it's not really, a huge opening for Hehe, but hey, it's something else that they don't have to worry about. Therefore, they're going to go for another tower push. This tower, almost perfectly healthy, but it shouldn't last for very long, mostly because Hehe don't have any heroes in the area to defend it. So it's a free tower, another free tower for basically Unknown, and they might even want to push their luck and try to go for the secondary one. Someone pinged that out. Not really sure who that was, but maybe Unknown are going to go for it. They're going to clean up the creep wave really quickly, and they're just going to keep on pushing forward. Why not?
Yeah, there's not really much that you have to stop this, and it looks like they're not really interested in stopping it. 2-2 tower is going to be dropping fairly quickly, and Hehe are just going to do their best to split push top to the best of their ability. They're going to steal some Ancients away from the enemy team, but this is still a pretty big win for basically Unknown. Arise is laying in wait over inside the trees. He has managed to find himself a little cubby hole. If anybody shows their face, they could be in a lot of trouble, but in the end, basically Unknown find a free tier 2, and not really much else in trade. The tier 1 tower up towards top is going to fall, but Hehe, this is a small consolation prize for using so much map control, especially around the Roche pit.
They still have the tier 2 for the Roche pit, but the top tier 1 tower for basically Unknown is a pretty useless tower for them. They are going to give that one up in exchange for anything at any stage of the game, pretty much in any game ever. So yeah, that tier 1 is not exactly valuable for them. If they can get Roshan right now, then well, this series of events for basically Unknown where they take 2 towers, or I guess 1 tower net, and then an Aegis straight after for Nico Baby is going to be huge. And if you look at the vision right now for Hehe, for basically Unknown rather, unless Hehe actually smoke up, they're going to be spotted completely. And then when you're spotted, you're walking straight into a Magnus with a skewer at the ready. Not to mention Stone Gaze in the Roche pit. So this is a bad situation for Hehe to be in. Blitz is going to walk in. He'll probably scout this one out. Is it even going to be relevant if he does, though? He might actually get caught right now. They don't have an arrow because they just used it on Roshan, but Blitz is sticking around. Suddenly, here comes the curse. Shockwave as well as a disruption. Cancel out that wind run. Now a skewer back. Starstorm as well. Blitz is going to get a shackle. That's going to do nothing. Mind Control is going to steal that kill because, again, Zeus. That's going to pave the way for Medusa to finish up the Roshan.
And now they do have that Aegis. It wasn't a very fast Roshan by basically Unknown, but it was completely unpunished, and they get a free Wind Ranger on top of it all. Just icing on the cake, really. They have a Blink Dagger now up in the Shadow Demon. He is so darn farmed. Shadow Demon, I'm so used to seeing him be the position, like, 6 support that gets absolutely nothing, but he has a Blink Yules. Most heroes at this point in the game would be pretty happy with that. In fact, he's only 1,000 gold behind the Darkseer.
Wow, that's so freaking weird to see, man. And, well, Spirit Breaker's actually not far behind them either. It's kind of surprising how much farm he's getting, but Stoneman is going to have those initiations all the time. Demonic Purge is a great tool up against that Surge of the Darkseer. We already seen it once, and well, he's going to blink forward. That's a little bit too aggro. Is he going to get walled off, however? He is going to take a fissure, but that should be fine for him to pass through. Yeah, there's a lot more space there than up on top lane, and Nico Baby's playing the slow and steady race. He will get a little bit of his mana burned because of these diffusal illusions, but he still has an Aegis. He actually just doesn't care as long as the tower drops, and it looks like it probably will.
Yeah, and even without mana, he's still reasonably taking BKB pop by the Spirit Breaker, going stronger than the Zeus, but Defensive Disruption is going to stonewall that. He'll be able to drop the ultimate. It's over in the sidelines and get the RP onto 3 with the Stone Gaze, going through all 3 of them. They're going to get a nice vacuum back into the wall as Nico Baby's now going to be fighting against the rest of his team. Mind Control gets power shot down, but Nico Baby is still standing strong. The Spirit Breaker over the sidelines kills off the Mirana. The Medusa's still alive, however, and has Shadow Demon behind her. The Coon is going to chase forward, trying to catch out Insolent, is going to look for a bash, can't find it. Medusa is now back, and back strong. The Coon with 4 stacks of the poison is going to melt. Medusa still has a decent amount of mana with the Focus Fire and the Phantom Lancer. Maybe they can do it, but not with the Defensive Disruption. The Shadow Demon's just stopping every initiation that he want to go for on Nico Baby. He's going to turn around for the Mystic Snake. HWA is going to survive barely. Oh, they would have loved to have a Zeus ulti now.
Shadow Poison got him, though. It'll cost Stoneman his life, but totally worth it, dude. This Shadow Poison did so much work. Like, I don't think I've ever seen Shadow Poison do that much work in a fight, and it's hard to say that Shadow Poison was the MVP there when you have a freaking 3-man RP, but I think it was. The mobility and the survivability of the Shadow Demon there let him get away with so much, and for Hehe, that was probably the best fight that they could have pulled together. Like, the Darkseer tanked a lot more than really Unknown were expecting. The mana burn on Medusa really did add up there. And they hit with a 3-man RP, yet they still take a rather even fight. So he should be happy with how that went, but still, man, Unknown getting some serious value out of all their heroes.
Yeah, the Shadow Demon in particular, I think, throughout the game has really been a huge boon to them. Just the defensive disruption, stopping Hehe from killing off the Medusa. What changed that from being a really close to even fight, or what would have been a disastrous fight for basically Unknown, to a pretty close to even fight, excuse me. Shadowblade now up on the Wind Ranger Blitz. Let's see how effective he can use this. With the Shadowblade and the Maelstrom can do quite a lot of damage. They need to get some kills off of this, however. Hasted Medusa going to be coming through the backlines, drops her ultimate, vacuum back onto 2, but the Medusa isn't involved in that at all. There's a defensive disruption onto Arise, and he's going to walk out, still under the shadow of Moonlight. Now they'll chase forward for a little bit more. The Coon's BKB is going to wear off as Medusa kills off the Earthshaker. Blink forward by Arise, looking for the Coon. 4-staff, Skewer, they're going to instead go into the sidelines. Blitz is going to be able to Shadowblade out of there as the Spirit Breaker charges away. Earthshaker's the only casualty.
That was actually, again, pretty good for Hehe. And that, oh wait, Kun is up on the high ground. He'll be just fine, albeit barely. Again, all things considered for that type of fight, when you make the jump in, you focus on that Magnus as much as you can, but then he just gets disrupted. Usually that fight is going to fizzle and you're going to end up losing a couple heroes in the retreat. But only losing the Earthshaker there, who already has his Blink Dagger, isn't really a big deal for Hehe, unless they lose Blitz as well. Purge take off that wind run, and then skewered back in. Seen that a couple times this game. Okay, it's a little bit worse now that they've lost their Wind Ranger, who, by the way, has no buyback, but still, for Hehe, they're taking these fights pretty darn well, considering their state of the game. Yeah, that also happens. Vacuum up the high ground? That sucks.
Yeah, in the end, Mirana only wanted that ward, and she does get it, but at the cost of her own life. In all honesty, that's probably the least of basically Unknown's worries. Space created for the tier 2 tower push, I guess. They'll get that tier 2, and all it costs them is that Mirana. In the meantime, TP up away by the Phantom Lancer is going to keep him safe, and Medusa actually backs off for a pretty late Maelstrom. This is going to allow Nika Baby to pretty easily clear through the Phantom Lancer's illusions, especially once Mjolnir comes out.
Yeah, this is an okay item in that regard. I think that with Magnus on your team, though, with the extra damage you get, probably going for agility mathematically is going to help you more. I'm not going to do the math ever on that one, but it feels like that might be the case because of the strength of Empower. Maelstrom's Chain Lightning, it does do 120 damage, which is pretty good, but I don't know. It might have been better for her to just rush a bigger item like a Butterfly.
Yeah, I personally would have liked to see the Butterfly, but I can't really knock the Maelstrom that much. It's still a really nice damage item to have on Dusa.
Yeah, so her attack speed is right now not super high, but will get even higher. So more attack speed equals more damage. They're going to get into a squabble up towards top. Blitz going to turn things around off a two-man Shackle, and Mind Control now on the run. They've already lost the Magnus. Here comes Stoneman. He's going to try to save Mind Control. Arrow not quite going to do it, but here comes the charge. Mind Control will die on impact. They'll land the arrow onto Blitz. They'll purge him up as well, but he's still fine to continue fighting unless this purge kills him off. It's going to get really close, but not quite there. Pure Evil's going to jump up the high ground and then get caught. They had True Sight up there. Nico Baby arriving last to this fight, and Unknown, they're taking such a messy engagement right now, walking in one at a time into this meat grinder that is the Wind Ranger. They're going to lose 3. They gain nothing.
That's pretty huge for Hehe. In the end, the big breadwinner is going to be Wind Ranger. She's going to come up with a decent chunk of gold, about 2,000 or so, and really that wasn't necessary for basically Unknown. They lose their Magnus. That could have been the end of it, but they decide to try and bail everybody out. That two-man Shackle really seems like it turned things around in a big way. The biggest issue I have for Hehe at the moment is that HWA really hasn't had any impact on the Phantom Lancer. He's 0-5-0, and isn't farming particularly well either. I don't really see the tipping point for when he's actually able to come and join these fights convincingly. Maybe once he gets Manta and Heart.
Yeah, probably at that point, just because he'll have Mana Burn. That's essentially all he is right now. Not for damage versus any of the other Unknown heroes besides Medusa. Pretty much just her and nothing but her. They see Cube with the Thunder God's Wrath, but a quick blink out from the Shaker. Good recognition there. He's still going to get chased down, although Arise did already use Skewer and Blink. However, Force Staff on Nico Baby. I have Scotty slow applied. He needs a Blink out, and the Fissure will give him enough time to do so. A narrow escape from Earthshaker, and again, for Hehe, things go a little bit better than you really would expect for them. So things are, continuously stacking up in a good way for Hehe. They just have to make sure that they don't lose Raxes right now, because that would be the objective that Unknown want at this point in the game. Maybe after another Roshan and or the Refresh Orb completed on Rise, they'll go for that.
The other silver lining for them is that Darkseer almost has his completed Crimson Guard to add to his supporting aura trinity at the moment. He has the Mech and Pipe already completed, has the Arcane Boots too, is helping out the team quite a bit, and that's definitely going to help. But we now have a BKB up for the Zeus. This is going to make it really hard for Hehe to actually deal with the Zeus in any significant way. Mind Control, inside these fights, whenever they try focusing with the Spirit Breaker, it gets bailed out by the Shadow Demon, and this is going to make it even harder.
Well, and that's also the case for the entire team. So Mind Control is a lot less likely to be focused. Maybe now Hehe will be more inclined to go for a Rise. So Stoneman has a much easier task. It's going to be, oh, well, it's probably the Magnus to get charged, therefore I'll stick near the Magnus and make sure that he doesn't die. And Arise will have that to depend on. They're going to smoke up as 5 and look for some blood. There's not really many heroes in the area. Hehe probably know that something's up at this stage, and they should not have any casualties, although they're completely spotted right now. They can just bring someone out with the Blink Skewer.
At the moment, Blink RP catches out 2. They're going to pull them back into the Dusa and rip them to shreds. Holy cow, now looking for the third. He's purged up, and it's going to be brought back in the rest of the team. His is dropping low. Inside the wall, the Medusa illusion is going to do a little bit of work, but not near enough. Spirit Breaker's on the backlines, trying to kill for Rise, but the Kun has no detection. Moonlight Shadow is going to stonewall that one as Nico Baby only gets his Lincolns popped. A disastrous fight for Hehe, set up entirely by this ward.
Oh man, I think that was why Mirana died before, right? Like she got backing up to the high ground because she wanted this Observer Ward. And that's exactly why. You don't expect that as Hehe. If you're sitting in your own base, you're fine. You don't have to watch your positioning by that much until you do. Stoneman's going to jump in for disruption. He'll get the Yules up, blink forward, Arise RP only onto illusions, however. That's fine. Everyone can miss one occasionally. They're going to lose the Shadow Demon. Everyone else should survive on the base of the unknown side. But Hehe, they're going to bring their Shaker back from the dead. And it looks like this, once again, will be a good fight for Unknown, but not going to crack high ground just yet. So Hehe, again, well, for like the 4th or 5th time in a row, things could have gone a lot worse for them.
Medusa's actually not going to fully commit to the Mjolnir at the moment. Nico Baby's backing off for a Demon Edge item. This Medusa is doing a lot of damage in these fights, and that's pretty scary for Hehe. But again, they're not losing high ground off of these fights, and even though they're at a disadvantage, they're still in this, but the net worth lead is starting to look a little bit scarier. Almost 10k lead for basically Unknown, and experience is at 7,500.
Roshan is going to be up very quickly, though. This is a good timing for Hehe and a really inconvenient one for Unknown because they are lacking the Magnus double RP. Hell, they're going to be lacking a single RP. They do have the Zeus ultimate, but for Hehe, they'll have a little bit more time where they're probably going to know that the Roshan is a little bit less likely for Unknown to clear out. Deuce at this point probably can solo it, but Hehe will be able to breathe a little bit easier should they get eyes on the Roshan and if they have the cooldown on the RP in their minds. So they have a little bit more time to farm, and Phantom Lancer will maybe get the heart in time. He is actually not getting anything. He's 0-6-1, and well, he's doing some decent mana burning. That's still just about it. I don't think he's gotten anything since we last checked up on him.
No, not really. He's just pooling up gold, saving up for that item, and really Phantom Lancer feels like it's almost a dead pick, since it just hasn't done anything for Hehe. They got him a decent amount of space in the early game, outside of the first 5 minutes where he was pressured pretty decently. HWA has been mostly left alone. That was until Magnus got his Blink Dagger, and then he died every single time Magnus came towards his lane, and since then, he just hasn't found any momentum. At the moment, basically Unknown are back to this game. The Medusa has rejoined everything, and it looks like it's about time for them to push out these lanes and work towards a Roshan, which is available and should be pretty easy for them to take. Hehe's Roche fight is pretty good with an Earthshaker and Darkseer. Maybe that's where they can stage a comeback.
It really does depend more and more on Nihis to actually land a decent wall vacuum. If you grab a Medusa illusion, that will absolutely destroy the Unknown side. No one else on Unknown really super relevant to make illusions of, all nice, although unnecessary. A wall into Medusa, that will be a huge asset for Hehe, not to mention, well, all the chaos that it causes as well. Nico Baby will go right into the Roche pit, start clearing that one out, and for Hehe, they are, first of all, not in any position to contest this right now. Second of all, they're not really looking to get any trades, so it looks like this might just be a free Aegis for the Unknown side.
Now that I think about it, maybe this is why Nico Baby's gone for more of a green damage build than going for, like, the Butterfly or just raw stats. It's going to mean that his Darkseer Replica Illusion isn't going to be doing as much, so maybe thinking that that's going to outweigh the benefit of having Empower on your Deuce, I suppose. Either way, they're going to have a second life on Nico Baby now.
Maelstrom also doesn't do much for illusions, and by much I mean anything, so yeah, that's actually, yeah, that is probably why he actually did that, so yeah, it all makes sense now, especially with this MKB. Butterfly usually would be good, but gotta be careful about making your illusions too scary on the other end.
Yeah, well, Nico Baby is now going to get some illusions made of him, so who needs Mantis Style when you have a Shadow Demon behind you? They're going to send these illusions onto the high ground and start the constant chip damage going. It's going to be hard for them to contest this. At the moment, the only one that they can go on to is Nico Baby, and really, that's not a target you want to be going on. Medusa has a double life and is so darn tanky.
I'm also pretty sure Nico Baby missed like 4 or 5 shots consecutively on this tower from the low ground, which kind of sucks, but Arise once again in position to get an RP. He's going to know about this though. Arrow is going to connect onto the Darkseer off in the corner, but he's in such a secure position right now that he should be fine. Nico Baby's still in the front lines, going to tear through illusions and towers alike. Shackle going to get blocked by the Lincolns, and still Nico Baby is firing away. MKB delivered halfway. They have perfect eyes right now on the Magnus, and that's really what's going to help Hehe in this fight, but really let's start the fight soon. Otherwise, Nico Baby is just going to take all their structures. Nika's going to charge right in, vacuum onto Mind Control, no wall there. Nico Baby's still firing as the Coon charges into the backlines, but they had to deal with this Medusa first. The Shadow Demon is going to kill off the Darkseer, and now the Coon, he's all alone right now as Nico Baby just going to town on everyone. Hala is going to get tagged with an arrow, no follow-up there, but Nico Baby 1v4ing or something like that, and Coon doing the exact same, but a little bit worse for wear. The Spirit Breaker is going to die as Nico Baby is still at more or less full HP, half a mana pool, blink forward, RP onto Hala, gonna steer him right back into the Medusa yet again, and that's gonna be GG. That was disastrous initiation from Hehe. It probably could not get any worse than that.
In the end, Hehe just never found any momentum. They got a decent amount of farm in the early game, but the fight's never going in their favor. It's going to be basically known to take this victory, securing pretty much their spot in their group. I think they're undisputed #1 at the moment.
They are, yeah, 3-0, and I don't know if 3-0 is just instantly good enough for them to be in the clear, but it's close to it.
Yeah, definitely. We'll move on towards our next series. That's going to be coming up shortly with Moscow 5 versus Lemon Dogs. I believe that starts in about an hour, so if you want to stick around, this is the place to do so here on HeflaTV 1, where we'll have the rest of the Razer ThinkFast Cup #2. I've been Grant SV, he's been Mike Loris, and we'll be back soon with more Dota.